Buried beneath the stone floors of Dunnottar Castle lies a vault so horrifying, even modern caretakers won't enter it after dark. In 1685, this dungeon, now known as the Whigs Vault, crushed men's spirits with darkness, disease, and despair. Some never walked out, but Dunnottar's horrors don't end there. This cliffside fortress has seen fire, betrayal, and a royal crown smuggled under siege. Today, we peel back centuries of blood, silence, and stone, from Viking raids to the night Scotland's crown vanished. Before we step inside, a quick favour. Most of you watch without subscribing, and we get it. But if you're drawn to castles, history, and the stories most people forget, that one click means everything. It's free for you, and it helps us keep uncovering the past, stone by stone, vault by vault. So, if you believe places like Dunnotar deserve to be remembered, hit that subscribe button. Now, let's descend into the vault, where prisoners scratch their final prayers into the walls. Centuries before stone towers rose from these cliffs, Pictish warriors watched the horizon for Viking sails. They left behind only cryptic symbols carved into rocks, the first whispers of Dunnottar's violent story. The headland's sheer cliffs made it an ideal stronghold, controlling coastal trade routes and fishing grounds. But that same strategic position made it a target. When Viking longships appeared in the late 700s, they came for plunder. Raiders scaled the cliffs, overwhelming Pictish defenders in brutal close combat. Archaeologists found iron spearheads and shattered pottery embedded in the soil, physical proof of these early massacres. The promontory became a battleground, changing hands repeatedly as new invaders arrived. By the 400s, Christian missionaries like Saint Ninian may have established a chapel here. This added spiritual significance to the site's military value. Later, chronicles mention a church burning during Viking attacks, the first of many fires Dunnotar would endure. These early conflicts set the pattern. For the next 1,000 years, whoever controlled these cliffs held power over northeast Scotland. The stone castle built here later merely continued what the Picts started, a fortress drenched in blood before the first foundation stone was laid. And soon, it would face its greatest test against Scotland's most famous rebel. The stone walls of Dunnotar hold a dark rumour that William Wallace met his end here in flames. During the Wars of Independence, this fortress became a key prize between Scottish rebels and English forces. Contemporary records place Wallace near Dunnotar in 1297, when his forces allegedly burned an English garrison sheltering inside the castle's chapel. But the notorious burned alive story likely stems from later conflations with other executions. Dunnottar's strategic value explains why both sides fought so fiercely for control. Perched above vital sea routes, it guarded supply lines and offered sweeping surveillance over the coastline. Its natural defences, 200-foot cliffs on 3 sides, made direct assault nearly impossible. Yet records show it changed hands twice in 1296 and 1297, proving even strongholds fall when under siege. Centuries later, the legend exploded in print. Blind Harry's 15th century epic describes Wallace setting fire to an English-filled chapel. But modern historians note these accounts emerged long after the fact, blending folklore with nationalist myth. Archaeological evidence confirms a church fire around this period, though whether it was Wallace's doing remains uncertain. The burning legend persists, because it fits Dunnottar's violent reputation. The rebels' documented execution in London, hanging, drawing and quartering, was brutal enough without fictitious immolation. Still, Dunnottar's real role in Scotland's struggle was undeniable. Its stones bore witness to pivotal turning points before passing to a family who would shape its next chapter, the Keiths. The Keith family transformed Dunnottar from a battleground into a royal fortress through calculated ambition and deliberate reconstruction. As hereditary Earls Marischal, they fortified the castle with thicker curtain walls, new towers, and advanced defences that made it nearly impregnable. Each stone reinforced both their loyalty to the crown and their growing influence within Scottish nobility. Royal visits soon cemented Dunnottar's importance. James IV and Mary Queen of Scots both stayed here, using the castle as a base for political negotiations. The Keiths hosted these events with intent, showcasing their strongholds, prestige, and tightening bonds with the monarchy. Their position as Marischals, responsible for royal ceremonies, further bound their fortunes to the crown. But such prominence carried risk. The Keiths' political manoeuvres, through marriages and alliances, mirrored Scotland's own upheavals. Their castle became both symbol and stake in an increasingly volatile power struggle. By the mid-1600s, their influence peaked just as the divide between Crown and Parliament reached a boiling point. The innovations that made Dunnottar formidable would now be tested. In 1651, with Cromwell's forces advancing, the Keith stronghold became the final vault for Scotland's crown jewels, a burden that would push both castle and family to their breaking point. By September 1651, Cromwell's forces had swept through Scotland, crushing resistance. Dunnottar stood as one of the last strongholds, and within its walls lay Scotland's crown jewels. Governor Sir George Ogilvy faced an impossible choice: surrender the honours of Scotland, or watch them seized and melted down as symbols of a fallen nation. The castle's natural defences, sheer cliffs on three sides, forced the English to attack from land. Ogilvy's men sabotaged the only well, forcing the besiegers to haul water uphill. But time and provisions were running out. Inside the chapel, the honours, crown, sceptre and sword, rested beneath the floorboards, their weight bowing the aging wood. That's when Christian Fletcher, the minister's wife from nearby Kinneff, stepped in. Posing as a linen bearer, she visited the castle often. On one visit, she hid the crown beneath a flax-filled basket. The sword followed, strapped to a servant's back beneath his cloak. Months later, a local farmer carried out the sceptre, buried in bags of grain. Fletcher hid the honours beneath stone slabs at Kinneff Church, where they remained for 9 years. When Cromwell's men stormed the castle, they found only empty chests and fading hopes. Scotland's soul had already slipped through their fingers. In the summer of 1685, Dunnottar Castle became a prison for 167 Covenanters, men who refused to abandon their Presbyterian beliefs under King Charles II. The Whigs Vault, a windowless stone chamber beneath the Marischal quarters, held them all. Just 16 by 22 feet, it forced prisoners to stand shoulder to shoulder with no room to lie down. The walls wept seawater from cracks in the stone, forming puddles that never dried. Prisoners developed sores from standing in brine for weeks in the same rotting clothes. Guards lowered stale bread through a single ventilation slit, the only ration. One survivor described the air as thick with the stench of sweat, sickness, and excrement. 2 men tried to escape by squeezing through the food chute. One broke both legs in the fall and was dragged back inside. The punishment, chained in an iron cage in full view, drove the others to sing psalms through the night. As bodies weakened, disease spread. Some starved. Others simply collapsed, crushed by the overcrowding. When the survivors were finally released 4 months later, only 70 had lived. The floor stayed stained with waste and blood for years. Even today, visitors report a sudden chill near the vault's entrance, and faint chanting, like final psalms still trapped in the stone. Visitors to Dunnotar report strange occurrences: cold patches where no draft should be, footsteps in empty corridors, and sudden drops in temperature near the Whigs Vault. Tour guides say they've heard their names whispered when no one was nearby. Some attribute these phenomena to the castle's violent past. Others suggest natural causes: damp stone, shifting air through ancient cracks. The most common apparition is the Green Lady, believed to be a servant girl who fell from the cliffs centuries ago. She's often seen near the well house in pale garments, vanishing when approached. Others report hearing cries near the vault, echoes, perhaps, of the Covenanters' suffering. A few visitors even describe feeling a hand brush past them in narrow stairwells, only to find no one there. Paranormal investigators have recorded electronic voice phenomena, whispers repeating names, dates, and phrases tied to the castle's history. One 2019 recording captured a voice near the vault entrance whispering, "Let me out." Thermal imaging has shown cold spots moving across solid walls. Ghosts or suggestion, the castle's weight unsettles many. Executions, sieges, and slow deaths in darkness. These stones absorbed it all. Even the current caretakers don't dismiss the stories. Some quietly avoid certain wings after nightfall. Perhaps the most chilling account comes from a couple in 2017. They took a photo of an empty corridor, only to find later the image of a man in period dress staring straight at the camera. Skeptics called it a trick of light. The couple never came back to check. The stones keep their secrets. Dunnottar Castle still stands, not just as stone, but as memory. This cliffside fortress has witnessed desperate courage and quiet suffering, from smuggled crowns to whispered final prayers. Over 40,000 visitors now walk its worn paths, tracing fingers over carvings in the Whigs Vault. Preservation teams work to stabilize the ruins, but some scars never fade. The wind still carries echoes, the creak of siege engines, the clank of manacles, the rustle of green silk where no woman stands. Go, stand on the cliffs, listen, feel the weight of history in the salt air. Then ask yourself, is Dunnotar just old stone, or something that remembers? If stories like this move you, if you believe places like Dunnotar deserve to be remembered, then help us keep telling them. Like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who needs to feel that weight. Because sometimes, the past doesn't rest in peace. It waits to be heard.